Somewhere in Iran tonight, a price has been put on an American life. $30,000. That's the number. That's what a human life is worth right now, according to the Iranian military. And if a woman is the one who pulls the trigger, that number doubles. This isn't a rumor. This isn't propaganda floating around social media. This came directly from the mouth of Iran's own army chief, Major General Amir Hatami, announced through the country's official state news agency, a bounty on American soldiers in the year 2026. But here's what should stop you in your tracks. There are almost no American ground troops inside Iran. None. Except for one exception, a single rescue mission back in April, when a downed American pilot was pulled out under fire. So if there's barely anyone to target, why announce a bounty at all? That question is the first thread we're going to pull tonight. Because when you dig into why this bounty appeared right now, at this exact moment, in this exact way, the answer isn't as simple as revenge. There's a timeline here, a chain of events that stretches back to February, to a war most people already thought was over, and to a ceasefire that quietly fell apart behind the headlines. To understand why Iran just put a price on American blood, we have to go back to the moment this war actually began. And what happened next will explain almost nothing you'd expect. Let's go back to February 28th. That's the date the war officially started, when the United States and Israel launched a joint attack on Iran. What followed was nearly 40 days of open combat, missiles, airstrikes, casualties on both sides. Then in April, a ceasefire. The guns went quiet, diplomats started talking. By June, there was even a framework for peace on the table, and then it collapsed. Nobody outside a small circle of negotiators knows exactly why the talks fell apart. What we do know is that since then, Iran and the United States have been locked in something stranger than war and stranger than peace, sporadic exchanges of fire, concentrated mostly around southern Iran in the Strait of Hormuz. Not a full war, not a resolution, a slow-burning fuse. Which brings us back to the bounty. $30,000 or 5 billion tomans, as Hatami phrased it in local currency. Now on the surface, that number might not sound massive, but you have to understand what that money means inside Iran right now. The Iranian rial has been in free fall for years. Inflation has gutted ordinary people's savings. 5 billion tomans isn't just a reward inside Iran's collapsing economy, it's close to a lottery win. A life-changing sum dangled in front of a population that is economically desperate. And Hatami didn't stop there. He added a detail that made headlines everywhere. If a woman carries out the killing or capture, the reward doubles. $60,000. Here's where the second open loop begins. Why specifically target women with double pay? Is this really about needing more combat participants? Or is something else going on, something about how Iran wants this story to be seen, both by its own people and by the world watching? Because this isn't the first time Iran has put a price on someone's head. In 2022, U.S. prosecutors revealed that Iran's government had placed a $500,000 bounty on an Iranian-American journalist, a woman who had spent years campaigning against the country's mandatory hijab laws. 2 men, paid by Tehran, were caught plotting to kill her on American soil. So bounties aren't new for Iran. What's new is doing it openly, publicly, through state media against an entire nation's military. And once you notice that pattern, a government that has used assassination for hire before, now inviting its own citizens to do the same against Americans, the question isn't just why now. It's what is this bounty actually designed to do? To answer that, we need to look at what Hatami said right after announcing the reward. Because buried in the same statement was a warning about a stretch of water that carries 20% of the entire world's oil. Right after announcing the bounty, Hatami said something that got far less attention than the dollar figure, but might actually matter more. He declared that the United States no longer has permission to enter the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, or the Strait of Hormuz. Read that again. Not a request, not a warning shot. A statement delivered as if Iran alone controls who sails through one of the most contested waterways on Earth. And here's why that single sentence carries so much weight. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just another stretch of ocean. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, roughly 21 million barrels of oil move through that strait every single day. That's close to 20% of everything the entire planet consumes. Add to that over 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas traffic, and you start to understand why this narrow channel, barely wide enough in places for 2 oil tankers to pass, is treated like a global pressure point. If Iran ever actually closed it, even partially, even temporarily, the shockwaves wouldn't stay in the Middle East. Fuel prices would spike from Tokyo to Texas within days. So now we have 2 things sitting side by side. A bounty on American soldiers, most of whom aren't even present on Iranian soil, and a declaration that America has no right to sail through the very waters that keep global oil markets stable. 2 statements announced back to back by the same man on the same day. This is where the third open loop opens up. Is Iran actually preparing to escalate to back up these words with real action in the Strait? Or is this something else entirely, a message aimed less at Washington's military planners and more at cameras, headlines, and the eyes of ordinary Iranians watching their leaders talk tough after a war that technically never resolved? Because here's the detail that should make you pause. Despite nearly 40 days of combat back in February and March, and months of tension since, there has been no confirmed large-scale movement to actually block the strait. No mines, no blockade, just words. Aggressive, escalating words from a government that knows exactly how much attention a threat to global oil supply generates. So we're left with 3 loose threads. Why a bounty when there's barely anyone to target? Why double pay for women, specifically? And why threaten the world's most important oil choke point without acting on it? Pull all 3 threads together, and a very different picture starts to emerge, one that has less to do with military strategy and everything to do with a message Iran is sending on 2 fronts at once. So let's pull every thread together, because none of these 3 things, the bounty, the double pay for women, the Hormuz warning, make sense in isolation. But put them side by side and the real strategy becomes obvious. Start with the bounty itself. There are almost no American ground troops on Iranian soil to actually collect it against. So as a military tool, it's nearly useless. But as a message, it's incredibly efficient. It tells Iran's own population, battered by inflation, by a currency in freefall, by nearly a year of war and failed diplomacy, that their government is still fighting back, still defiant, still willing to put its money where its rhetoric is. This wasn't built for the battlefield. It was built for morale at home. Now the double pay for women. Iran has spent years cracking down on women who defy its laws, the same government that placed a $500,000 bounty on a female journalist for encouraging women to remove their hijabs in 2022. Now, that same government is publicly rewarding women for violence against a foreign power, framing them as courageous. It's not really about needing more fighters. It's a calculated piece of propaganda, an attempt to rewrite the image of Iranian women from a population the regime has spent years trying to control into one it claims to be empowering, but only when it serves the state's narrative. And finally, Hormuz. The declaration that America has no permission to sail through waters carrying 1/5 of the world's oil. No mines were laid, no ships were blocked. Because the goal was never to close the strait that day. The goal was to make the entire world nervous enough to ask, what if they do? A single sentence, in oil markets, shipping companies, and foreign ministries everywhere have to take notice. 3 different audiences, 3 different messages. One government using all 3 from a single announcement, reassuring its own people, redefining its own women, and warning the entire world without firing a single shot. That's the real story behind this bounty. Not a battle plan, a performance aimed at 3 different audiences at once, from a government that understands the value of fear as well as it understands the value of oil. Whether this is where things stay, words, warnings, and bounties on paper, or whether the Strait of Hormuz becomes the next flashpoint in this conflict, that's a story still being written. And when it moves, we'll be here to break it down.